I bet you're thinking about competition in the wrong way. There's actually a way for competition to serve you, make you better, and for you to even enjoy it. Here's how. All right, this video is gonna be divided into 3 parts. So we're gonna talk about my experience with competition, pop culture reference to competition, and then finally, how you can apply these principles in your own life. All right, so first, me. I love competition. I think competition is the spice of life. It makes most situations more interesting. Some people think I'm a little bit too competitive and that I make competitions out of things that don't need to be competitions, but it's just fun. It's not about winning or losing, it's about pushing yourself to the limit. There's a lot of ways this can actually manifest and ways that I found it very beneficial. So here's the Instagram story. So today I rode my first group ride with Zwift on my indoor smart trainer. So I was riding here for about an hour, and it was a really good reminder about why competition is good. And it's unfortunate that competition gets a bad rap these days, because I've done, dozens of rides on this trainer, and it's usually hard for me to push myself because you don't have actual wind, you don't have the outdoors, engaging scenery. But when you're riding with other people and your competitive instinct takes over, you want to do better, you want to keep up, you want to overtake, whatever it is. And as a result, I found myself pushing much higher wattage on this ride compared to what I normally do on my indoor trainer. It was a great workout. 1 hour, kicked my butt, and I feel good. So don't shy away from competition. So I've been using Zwift. Essentially I take my bicycle and I take off the rear wheel, put it on a smart trainer, and there's this app, this little virtual world video game that helps you cycle. And normally I just ride by myself. I ride solo, I have the fan on, I'm watching some TV, and I'm going at it, right? And it never feels as fun. I can never push myself quite as hard. I can never get the same wattage or the same heart rate as out in the real world. Until today, because today was my first group ride. They have group rides every day, and there's hundreds of people all around the world who are cycling in their garage or in their bedroom or whatever, and you're essentially competing. It's not really a competition actually, because it's not a race, but again, I would make it a competition, and my buddy is there, and I'm I want to get ahead of him, and then after him, there's some other people, and you're kind of matching pace, and then you wonder, can I overtake? Can I keep up and get to the next guy? And after doing this for an hour, I was shocked, because my average wattage was way higher than what it normally is, and my heart rate was higher, and I enjoyed the ride a lot more. Especially these days, competition gets this bad rap. People think that competition is evil and it makes people feel like winners and losers, and it's never fun to feel like a loser, but that's not really competition's fault. That's our own story, our own narrative about the situation that we tell ourselves. I win some competitions, I lose a lot of competitions, but regardless, I don't get down on myself when I lose something. It's part of the fun. So for example, back when I was in med school, I used to study with one of my good friends. And so let's say we were studying at my place, and I had this little foldable beer pong table. And we were not drinking while we were studying, but after a couple hours, you get kind of tired of studying, you want to take a break. And we would set up the beer pong table and then use water in the cups, and then play a couple matches. And I remember thinking the most fun games weren't the ones where I won or won easily. When you sink the last cup, the opponent has a chance to, it's called rebuttal. Can't believe I'm talking about beer pong on this channel. He was a little bit better than me, so usually he'd be sinking the last cup and then I'd be rebuttal, okay, here we go. And that kind of pressure, it excited me. And I would oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, sink the last couple cups, and then you go into overtime when you tie it up. And then we'd do overtime, and the same thing would happen, and then rebuttal, and then boom, double overtime. And even if I lost that game, even if he won and I lost, just that thrill of damn, that was a good game, that was a good match, that was some good competition, that was fun. That was way more fun than the easy game where, it's someone's first time or they're not as familiar with the game and they're kind of fooling around and you beat them easily. That's not fun. So for those who follow Formula One, Sergio Perez at Sakir Grand Prix last year was incredible, right? So if you guys haven't watched Drive to Survive, please do. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. A lot of my friends are getting into Formula One because of that show, because it just humanizes the whole sport. And it's just so fun. It's so amazing, even if it does have a few inaccuracies.
Sebastian Vettel, he has been leading, but now he's out of this race.
We did it! Yes! Yes! I love you guys. I love you.
But at the Sakir Grand Prix, Sergio Perez had this amazing performance where essentially he makes contact with Charles Leclerc from Ferrari. He spins out, he ends up in last place on the opening lap. By the end of the race, he wins it. And it's this amazing, triumphant, it's a beautiful performance. And you wouldn't have that, it wouldn't be so meaningful, it wouldn't be so fun, it wouldn't be so captivating if it wasn't for competition. And same with whatever sport you like to follow, whether that's basketball or NFL or whatever it is. It's the competition that makes the sport feel alive, that makes it more engaging and interesting to watch. When one team just massacres the other team, that was boring. Who cares? Like, as much as I love Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, when they just were, wiping the floors with everyone the last several years, it wasn't as exciting to watch. But when you have heightened competition and things are a little bit more uncertain, that's where the magic is. So, part 3. How can you apply this to your own life as a student? All right, so I was having a conversation with my buddy earlier today about this very topic, about competition, and he mentioned that he's his own worst critic, the bad cop in his head, the one that's really berating him, kind of tearing him down. And I don't think that's what you should be doing as a student. So as a student, where does competition come into play? You can say competition is you against yourself, right? You improving your grades from test to test, quarter to quarter, year to year. Or you can say it's competition between you and other students. Now, obviously the first one is more likely to be healthy, and the second one has more potential to be unhealthy, to actually lead to a slippery slope where you compare yourself to others, feel inadequate, low self-confidence, low self-esteem, that negative spiral. But I don't think it has to be that way. A lot of this comes down to your self-talk and how you view the competition. Let's say you're studying for midterms or a final in one of your classes and it's curved. I think gamifying it makes it more exciting. It feels like a competition then, right? So maybe the competition at the beginning is for you to start from getting C's to then C pluses and then B minuses and then B's and B pluses, and like you just keep working up, you keep progressing that way. But the key is that when you inevitably slip up, because that will happen, growth is not this like constant trajectory going this way, right? It's an average, a trend line going up and to the right, hopefully, but there's gonna be ups and downs along the way. So when you inevitably have one of those downs, the answer isn't to beat yourself up and feel like terrible about yourself and say, you're so dumb, and like don't have that negative self-talk. It doesn't serve you. Instead, it's the opportunity, like a team in any sport, you regroup, you kind of sit down and think, okay, what went right, what went wrong, what can I do different next time? That's the only way that you're actually going to have meaningful progress and different results next time. Otherwise, if you just get down on yourself and beat yourself up, then you'll probably have an even worse result the following time. So earlier today, when I was doing this indoor ride, I was nowhere near the front, not even close. I couldn't even see the first place guy, okay? Again, it wasn't even a race, it's just a group ride, so doesn't really matter. But the game for me was, how much can I push myself? How high can I get that power meter? How high of an average wattage can I get on this ride? That was the fun part, that was the game, because your wattage, essentially you measure your fitness in cycling as a ratio of your watts over your weight in kilograms. And when I first started cycling and paying attention to this, I was below 2 watts per kilo. And I kept cycling, and then, on this ride I was like 2.3. I'm like, hey, you know what? That's not amazing by any means. That's like a beginner, intermediate, probably closer to beginner cyclist. But the progress, the fact that I was pushing myself and getting more out of me than I was able to in the past, that was exciting, that was fun. When I was in college, I did well in school, and I don't want you to think that it's because like I'm super smart or like was doing something. Like I was in a rough time in my life, and I used school as an outlet, and I channeled a lot of energy and I studied a lot. That was really just a game I had with myself. I wanted to see what I could do, what I was made of, right? And I remember my freshman year, that first time I set the curve, it was either a midterm or it was a midterm in Life Sciences 2 in bio. And I remember thinking, this is amazing. It was exhilarating, right? It was like, I can do more than I expected. And then the game became, how many classes can I do that in? And I definitely did not do it in every class, but I did it more and more frequently as the years progressed. I'm hitting the curve pretty frequently. How much can I separate myself from the second scoring person? And I know I'm probably gonna get some hate for that. It was like a time in my life where that was where I channel a lot of my energy and frustration and anger. And the key points here, the things that I want you to take away are that, number one, that really built my confidence to say, hey, you know what? I can do more than I initially thought. And if I really apply myself, then maybe I can do more than I even think now, right? But then the second thing was that I didn't always hit the curve. I didn't always, I wasn't always number one by any means. And when I didn't meet that mark, I wasn't beating myself up. It was time to regroup and be like, okay, first of all, whenever the exam was able to be reviewed, I took that opportunity 100%, every single time, without exception. I wanted to see what answers I got wrong or what questions I got wrong and why, so I could learn and improve in the following test. But beyond that, sometimes it was about study strategy. Sometimes it was about, should I have done more practice questions? Sometimes it was about, I didn't sleep enough in the ensuing days. I didn't study enough days. I didn't study enough days and maybe I procrastinated. That's where the come from was. Competition by itself isn't inherently bad, despite, I think, some of the social narrative shifting towards like everyone's a winner at soccer games when, you know, for kids and stuff. With the idea being that competition makes some kids feel bad. And it's really an important skill to be able to choose your own narrative and your own story about those events, right? Can they serve you? So there are times where comparing yourself to other people can be useful, right? If you're playing a game, if you're playing a sport, then that's obviously very appropriate. But there are other things, like weight training, where you probably shouldn't compare yourself to other people, otherwise you're gonna increase the risk of injury and stuff like that. Like, I have been lifting weights for longer than it seems, and I don't have much to show for it, but I'm not comparing myself to the guy next to me, because it's just like it's not a relevant competition, it doesn't actually serve me. The competition with myself is, what's the rate of improvement? What's the rate of strength gain? What's the rate of hypertrophy? And can I improve my sleep, my nutrition, all my workout parameters so that I can tweak those things and get something more out of my efforts, right? Life will always be competitive. And if it's USMLE Step 1 becoming pass-fail, doesn't change the fact that there are limited spots for residency and it will still be competitive to get into certain residencies. So the answer isn't to try to eliminate competition. The answer is, can you be stronger and can you handle that competition and the stress that comes with that in a healthy, productive way that actually pushes you to accomplish more than you would have without competition. Damn, I should have said that at the beginning of the video. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love, and I'll see you in that next one.